you're in charge of your suffering, but you're also in charge of your happiness. They work both ways. It's hard. I don't think anything is black and white, as in, oh no, it's just you surrender to the process and everything is good. Intimate relationships, like personal relationships, sometimes you need to do the work. Not sometimes, most of the time, all the time, you really need to do the work. I think that if things are not running really well, it's more a problem on you as a manager than on people working with you. Maybe it's your management style is not working, or you can't communicate a message across. Rejection and betrayal, they're tough ones because they're very personal, you know. Someone chose someone else instead of you. It's very, it just really hurts your ego. What I eat impacts in my mood, in my, you know, how am I feeling, or how do I look, and changing those habits. That's something that can affect you dramatically.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode. My guest today is Walter Goddoy. He's all the way from Brazil, in Bali, and we are friends from Jiu Jitsu. We met 2 years ago when I started training. You started training shortly afterwards, and you've been training consistently ever since. Well, there was a moment in time where you broke your collarbone. We'll talk about that, and we'll also talk about the fact that he owns a restaurant here in Bali, a business here in Bali. And to me, that's really interesting because coming from Brazil, and obviously your life back there, and then coming to Bali and settling here, and then opening up a really thriving restaurant here, and now you're going to open up. Well, you own 2 restaurants here in Bali, and now you're going to open up a 3rd.
Yes.
And your brother owns another restaurant in Ubud called Donna.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a cool conversation to just learn about how to do business in Bali. That'll be one segment, and then also talk about, you know, just life and how you've managed to navigate your trials and tribulations in your life in that. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So where should we start? Like, first of all, when did you come to Bali? Like,
I moved to Indonesia about 8 years ago.
Okay.
And to Jakarta first. So it was me, my brother, and another friend. And we were working with a company that imports acai berry. So we had that idea that, Indonesia climate is similar to Brazil. We know that is a bunch of, my idea of Indonesia was mainly Bali. I didn't know much about Jakarta, so I thought, there is a bunch of people that like to surf and yogis and whatnot. Maybe we can bring acai, smoothie bowls. And the timing was good because it was right about when it was starting to grow. And we worked with that for about 4 years. So Jakarta, it's not the easiest place to live. It's people there were very friendly, but it was just expensive and so much traffic. It took forever to go from one place to the next. And then I decided to go back to Brazil. I said, no, I don't want to live here. I don't want to change my life in São Paulo for my life in Jakarta. It's not worth it. I prefer São Paulo. And then my partners told me, you know what, you go live in Bali and try to work from there. I think it's going to be easier to sell acai as well. Give it a go. And then I came here, and it was the first time that I came to Bali, and I enjoyed it a lot. To be honest, I grew up in a city my whole life, 25 plus years before moving here. I didn't think that I would enjoy living next to the ocean, but it changed. It changed my life. I enjoyed it very much. Yeah. So that's how I ended up in Bali.
Interesting. Yeah. So what were you doing, for business wise, when you were before you came to Bali, before you came to Indonesia?
So I am a graphic designer, and I was working with design in Brazil. I've worked for a few agencies, then I ended up working for a small studio with a teacher of mine, a really great designer. And then it might be a long story, but I decided to travel to Asia. I was curious to see what was up in Asia, and I heard interesting things about Southeast Asia, and then I ended up coming here and I fell in love. I did a really nice trip through Southeast Asia. Went to all the usual: Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, but also went to Myanmar, which was it was really nice. A bit weird with the whole political thing that I think is still going, but that was about 10 years ago, so it was a bit more intense. They just opened again for traveling back then. And I went back to Brazil, and my relation with my family, I mean, I think everyone goes through it. It wasn't the easiest one, and I really wanted to move away from it. So I think I wanted to move away from it so much that I decided to move across the world from them, just to don't have any, don't be under the same roof, but don't have to talk with my parents so often. And after coming to Southeast Asia, I went back to Brazil, and I was practicing yoga a lot back then, and I wanted to find a way to move to India. So I got an internship in India working as a designer, and I moved to Mumbai. So I was living there for a while as well. Came back to Brazil, got invited to work in Argentina, went there, worked there for a little bit, then got back to Brazil, and then moved to Bali. So yeah, basically that was it.
Wow, so you went to live in India?
Yeah.
And you just studied yoga there?
Yeah, I was practicing yoga a lot, but I was working as a designer. So I used kind of design as an excuse to find a job in India to train, to practice yoga. And then, yeah, I think coming to Asia, I don't know if you can relate to it, but just getting out of your culture helps you to understand it, right? Like, just opens your mind, and then you can see, oh, Brazilians do certain things certain ways, which I didn't know. For me, there was the only way of doing things. And then coming to a completely different culture just expanded my mind horizontally, right? Where I understood that, oh, different people do things differently, and I'm rooted in my own culture. You know, I'm bounded by it. Where the things that I do a lot of times is not so much that I'm doing it out of my own accord. It's just I've done it through so long that is the only way that I know how to do it. And then coming back to Brazil from India, I went on a weird phase where I was questioning a bunch of things and being a little bit annoying as well. You know, when you get kind of preachy about things, like you've learned something new and you think that, oh, you know, everyone else should know this by now, blah, blah, blah. So I think I was a bit of an asshole for a little bit, but it helped me. It helped me to understand a few things.
I can imagine you like in Brazil, like, yo, you guys, why are you doing this? Like in India, they don't do it like this.
Yeah, and then just kind of preaching diets, and you know, you have to meditate, or you have to have a spiritual practice, or you need to think things about this like certain ways, blah blah blah. Yeah, like looking back, I think of how much of a fool I was, but I think it's also part of the journey to learn, right? I'm glad that some of my friends stick with me, and they were like, no, it's okay, it's just a phase, or maybe they were learning through it as well. But yeah, and then that's how I ended up falling in love with Asia and wanting to come back. And then when the opportunity came to move to Jakarta, even though I've never been in Indonesia before, I came in, and I was expecting it to be something similar to Southeast Asia, which is not at all, right? I didn't even know that Indonesia was a Muslim country. I had no idea. For me, this whole part of the world was kind of Buddhist/Hindu with India. And I knew that Bali had some type of Hinduism, so I thought, yeah, you know, it's not going to be that different than living in Mumbai, which it was very different. Yeah.
So where did you experience more culture shock? In Mumbai or Indonesia?
In India, for sure.
Yeah,
India is its own thing.
Yeah.
It's... I met this guy traveling once, and he was saying to me, like, he's been traveling to Southeast Asia and whatnot, and saying that Southeast Asia is the combination of China and India. If China and India had a baby, then that would be Southeast Asia.
That's a good explanation, actually. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, and I think that it's so ancient. Indian culture is so old that it's I don't know. Like Indonesia, you had all like people coming and colonizing it. You had the UK as well, British people in India, but it's I don't know. It just feels like it's more rooted and it's older. So the shock, and also was my first time living outside of Brazil. So I guess the culture shock there was pretty intense as well, because it wasn't, I'm traveling, meeting people, you know, when I was traveling, I was just not partying a lot, but man, I was like having fun, getting high. But when I was working and living at the place and I had to go and do groceries and cook my own food and pay for my rent, I started realizing, oh wow, okay, you know, like this is very different than how I'm used to do things.
Yeah, that must have been. Did it take you a long time to adjust to the new surroundings and stuff, like the way of living over there?
Yeah, I think I've never adjusted to India. I kind of became part of how they did things, but once I once I got out of India, then I slowly faded away. Like I kind of integrated some of the things that made sense and let go of some of the things that didn't make sense. Yeah, but I enjoy India a lot. It's a place that I highly recommend people to go and explore. It's different than anything else, I guess. It's very unique. A lot of the things that happen in India, they only make sense there, right? Like if you remove it from India, even Hinduism, it still fascinates me that Bali has a version of it, right? Even though it's not the same,
right?
Because it belongs to India so much that you remove it from it, and I don't know, it's weird. Yeah.
What are the things that you experience in India that you're just like, oh, this makes sense, like this clicks for me, like something about life or something that they do in India that you're just like, yeah, this is right.
So I think my quest as well was a religious one, like just trying to make peace with my parents. They're very religious and they're Christians, Catholic. And I grew up in a religious family household. You know, my dad used to help in the church and we used to go every Sunday. And then, like any teenager, I guess, when I turned like 12, 13, I started questioning it and it didn't make sense and I didn't enjoy it. But a lot of the things that I grew up praying, you know, which is a weird thing nowadays to think about it. But I used to pray every night before going to bed. And then I think exploring different religions helped me to make peace with it. Part of it. Another huge part of it that's completely out of the subject as well, like going in a different tangent. But another part of it was Jordan Peterson. He really helped me to weave some of the symbolisms behind Christianity in a way that it kind of made sense. And he brought a lot of Jung as well, which is something Jung really helped me to weave pieces together too. Because it's tough, like you grow up in a Christian household and then you have a bunch of references and frameworks that are based on religion, right? And for you to kind of get out of it and try to make sense of it in a different way when you don't have anyone that can sort of bring it to a context that it makes sense nowadays, it's challenging. And then exploring different religions and exploring spirituality in a different way helped. It psychologically, you know, I think there was a gap between like what I wanted to understand and what I was practicing. I couldn't put it together. And yeah, like seeing how people in India were able to kind of explore their religion, even though there's a bunch of things there. I'm not advocating in favor of what they do there or whatever, but just seeing it gave me perspective. It was a contrast, and I was able to realize, oh, okay, you know, some of the things in me are really rooted in Christian religion, sort of like the whole thing with guilt, for instance, you know. That was a big one that took me years to unravel and try to figure it out. Why do I feel guilty about things, blah, blah, blah. And then like tracing it back to the way that I grew up and you know, I don't know. Jesus, I guess, like all these things that took me years to figure it out, and having something to put it against it and then contrast against it was what helped me to understand it.
Do you still feel like you have guilt now? Like do you feel like you dealt with that, or
I think
it still comes up?
It still comes up, but less than before. Thankfully, because it's such a heavy weight. It's to carry it around.
Sure,
I think I don't know if it can be useful. Maybe not. But I'm glad that nowadays I don't. Like I will allow myself to do more things and don't feel guilty about it, and then just look at it in a different perspective. Sometimes maybe you can shift the guilt thing to kind of responsibility, like some things are my responsibility, and maybe I wasn't able to deliver it, and I'll try better. And some things, they don't concern me, they're not my responsibility. And I think what I used to do as well was taking problems away from people, and that really disempowered them, and it doesn't help them to figure it out by themselves and to grow as people.
Trying to fix their problems by just taking I'll take your problems.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of thing, right?
When a lot of times people are not asking you for a solution, they're just sharing stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I can come to you and say, hey man, this is happening in my life, and then you can try to help me out by listening to it, or just kind of give me a bunch of advices when maybe that's not it, I just need to vent out.
Yeah.
And just, I think as well, sometimes all I need to hear is it's a more compassionate answer, like, dude, that fucking sucks. I'm sorry that you're going through it.
Yep.
And that's it, that's it.
Yeah, and that's usually enough. Like, I remember when I had the panic attack, I came into class, I was like, I was in a bad way, and then you were just like, yeah, dude, that's like, and that actually helped. And I was like, I feel better. He didn't help me with my problem, but I feel better because you're like relating to how I was feeling.
Yeah.
That's it, yeah.
And then being empathic and compassionate in that moment, I think can do wonders. And sometimes it's what I need.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
My mom is visiting now, and
nice.
Our relationship was hard for a while. We didn't talk for 5+ years,
Whoa.
6 years almost, and now it's getting better. She did a lot of work in herself as well, and me too. I think it's easier for me to come and share stories that are one-sided and say, no, it's all that person's fault. I was always like this, and they were just hitting my nerves. No, I wasn't really easy to deal with either. And intimacy is a weird thing as well. You tend to be really mean to people you're intimate sometimes. They get it first. You're the first person there that you're just gonna lash on, and so now she's visiting, and we were having this conversation where I share something with her from work, and immediately she was trying to give me advice on what to do. And I told her, I'm not looking for advice, I just want to tell you what happened today in my work, right? Just catching up. And usually I think, like, in the past, we would both get really defensive about it, but not this time. She said, no, you're right. Like, I tend to do that. I'm trying to stop. And thanks for calling my attention. And in that moment, I realized, well, we've came a long way. Right, because it's not always that you're able to make amends with people.
Right.
And so that was interesting. That was also insightful in a lot of different ways.
So how did that feel for you when she was able to accept that instead of like hit you back with some stuff?
It's relieving, right? Because I don't know if something that you can relate as well, but it's just I don't know how to say it. It's just it's difficult when you see and I'm not saying that I'm more mature or anything than her, because I mean, she created me, right? But it's weird when you see someone making the same mistakes and you're trying to sort of out kind of, okay, but how do I untie this knot, right? Like, how can we have a conversation and you can get the message across? And after so many years, I think we can get messages across now, and it just feel, it's just this huge relief where we can actually talk. We're not talking past each other. We're not constantly trying to defend or argue or poke each other. We're just, I felt this way and I did this, and then you did something else, and then that's it. And it's a pleasant conversation. So it feels really good. I mean, I want to hang out now, like I feel like, okay, this is actually, I mean, of course in moderation still, but but I feel like, this is actually pleasant, it's a good company. It's as if I'm hanging out with someone that I care about, a friend, or, and it's great because she's my mother. And,
There's this quote, if you think you're enlightened, spend 2 weeks with your parents.
Yeah, 100%. So under the same roof.
Yeah.
Oof. Yeah. My relationship with my parents was, I mean, I think a lot of people go through it, like a bunch of up and downs. But then my dad got really sick, and then my parents split, and he started getting even worse. So I brought in that was maybe 4 years ago. Then I brought him to Bali, and then I was here, and me and my siblings were taking care of him. Then he passed away 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago.
Sorry to hear that.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's quite recent.
Yeah. And my mom was going through this massive transformation at the same time, so it's a little bit hard to deal with everything. So I got really upset at her at the time, So now finally, she and I think a lot of it was her own effort. She came here through COVID because she wanted to see us, and she's in her 60s. So I've realized as well, that takes courage, right? Like she lives in Mexico, so coming from Mexico all the way to Bali. And I mean, the beginning of COVID was so confusing.
Yeah.
Dude,
so confusing.
I don't know another word to say it. It was just fucking confusing. I had no idea what was going on, and no one knew, and it was all like suddenly changing everything, and it was this and it was that and blah blah blah. So for her to get on a plane and come here and say, no, I don't care. My goal is to see you and your brothers and your siblings. I thought to myself, you know what? Let's give it a chance, right? It's that important. And I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah, it's good, man, because having a great relationship with your parents while they're still alive is really important. Like if you can rectify it, it's worth it, right?
Yeah, for sure, man. I can. Especially now after losing my dad, I can understand. And it was lucky in a way because we were not also in a very good place, but I had 3 years to get close to him, and then just slowly, I mean, it was, I was even talking to Justin about it recently, and it was a huge lesson too, because he had, I don't know the name of it in English, but it's a degenerative disease. It's the same disease that Stephen Hawking had. So it's just slowly your body stops functioning, and it's hard for you to breathe. It's hard for you to talk. So I was kind of seeing it develop.
Yeah.
And it just put so many things in perspective for me, right? And I know that comparing suffering is a zero-sum game. I don't think you should take suffering away from anyone. What you're going through is yours. I can't say, but I'm going through that. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But seeing him going through it gave me perspective on a lot of things in my life, right? Like he's fighting something where his mind is there, but his body is not anymore. Is as if he's trapped. And towards the end, he really wanted to go. And we were even considering bringing him to Switzerland because they do euthanasia. So luckily we didn't have to. At the end, it was, he passed away. But it put things in place, and it helped me to understand that we have no idea what other people are going through. Like, you just don't know.
Yeah.
So it gave me more patience as well. Right. Even the other day, I was driving home, and there is a couple that lives next to me, and I think they got a car. So they parked, like, I live in a small street, and they parked their car in front of their house, and it's blocking the street. There's barely enough space for a bike to pass by. And I was driving, and then he was outside, I think by himself. He did just arrive home, and he's always smiling. He's a nice guy. And then part of me wanted to say, dude, you can't park here. You're blocking everyone, blah, 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 blah. But I said, no, my bike can go through this. It's fine. I mean, it's not ideal, but it doesn't matter, right? I have to dodge it a little bit, and that's it. And then I parked, and then I went outside again, and he was in front of the car with a newborn baby crying, trying to like calm him down. And I think maybe I don't know, I think they just got back home from the hospital, And then I thought to myself, man, what an asshole I would be to just kind of get angry at him. Like, hey, you can't park here. And the guy is going through something hard as well, just had a baby. I think, I don't know, I'm assuming, but I haven't seen him with his partner before. I assume that they just moved in together, starting his new life.
Yeah.
So I think it just gave me this perspective of, you don't know what other people are going through. For you to, if you can not be an asshole, I think you should. Of course, sometimes you have to set up boundaries, and which I think Jiu Jitsu is something that helped me a lot to figure it out. And also, like, intimate relationships can also help you to find out like where boundaries are. But I think as a rule of thumb, I try not to be an asshole. Like, if I can avoid it, then I'm like, and I know when it's coming. If I'm talking with someone and I know that I'm going to get reactive, nowadays I can walk away and say, hey, I cannot have this conversation now. It's just not going to help, and it's not going to help us. It's going to be counterproductive, and then just walk away.
Instead of doing the opposite, which would be what?
Being very reactive, getting defensive, blaming them, attacking it. All this. I think it helped my relationship with my girlfriend a lot, where sometimes I think she pokes a nerve, and then instead of doing the same, I just kind of take a break and step away, and then come back and say, hey, you know what? I didn't like this or that because of this and that. This is how I feel, and then try to come up to an agreement or a solution, or try to make her understand. And also sometimes I've realized that it's just little triggers that have nothing to do with her either. Just things that I need to address myself and look deeper.
That's cool, because a lot of people, they want to just blame everyone for everything, right? It's like, oh, it's fucking all your fault, know. But then looking within is actually quite painful to do.
It is.
It's like, fuck, shit, like, I don't want to look at that. I don't want to accept that was me. That was my fault.
Yeah. That self-responsibility thing is huge, and it's life-changing, but it's also painful, right? I think a good way to look at it is that it empowers you, right? Because you're in charge of your suffering, but you're also in charge of your happiness. They work both ways. Yeah. I think the only reason why nowadays, there's a few reasons. There's not only one, but one of the reasons why I'm able to have a better and healthier relationship now, intimate, like with my girlfriend, is because I started making peace with my mom. And also because I had a really bad breakup before, that it made me question everything, because it put me back into, why is this happening to me, right? or for me or whatever, but what am I doing that is contributing to this?
Right.
Because it's easy, oh, that person cheated me and she's an asshole or whatever, but how I participated in it, right? And going through that rabbit hole helped me to figure out a bunch of things, right? It was very, and then those things are insightful. Those traumatic experiences that just blow your entire frame of reference out, that just completely erase the map, are great, because you have to just do it again. You have to draw a more accurate map, because your map of reality wasn't accurate enough. That's why those things happen, right?
Yeah, that's man. So you had like can you share like do you mind sharing that breakup for people listening?
Not at all.
Because that when I shared my panic attack, that's another thing, right? Like when I was sharing like something that was happening for me that I didn't really want to share, that's when I found out more stuff about you. So like just in that process of sharing like stuff you don't want to share makes you connect deeper with other people as well. Because you shared something to me, I was like, wow, I never knew that about you.
Right. Yeah, I think it allows people, even small things, as in, I mean, of course you're not going to keep digging it, but sometimes you just ask someone, you know, how you're doing, and they're like, oh, I'm doing fine, it's all good. And then they ask you back, how are you doing? And you say, dude, I'm not actually having the best day. And then they come up and say, yeah, actually me neither, man. So I think it really allows people to be more honest when you put yourself in a more vulnerable position, right? Which I don't enjoy doing a lot.
Yeah, it's a practice, right?
But sometimes it's really rewarding.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was dating this girl for about a year. We met here in Bali, then she went back to the UK, and then she came back, and she came back and told me, yeah, let's be together. And it was very passionate, like looking back, you know. I was in love. I don't know if I loved her, but I had that kind of, you know, when you're drunk, like you're just high from being in love. Yeah. And she came back and everything was good, I thought. And I mean, it's a long story short. And of course, it's my version of it. I mean, if she was here sharing it, it would be different, right? But then one day, like she was staying at my place, and then she just vanished. She just woke up and then in the middle of the night just left, and kind of, I think she blocked me or she wasn't answering my messages. And then I found out that she was with her ex-boyfriend in Lombok.
Wow.
And that was hard. That was a hard one to swallow. Rejection and betrayal, they're tough ones. Because they're very personal, you know. Someone chose someone else instead of you. Yeah. It's very, it just really hurts your ego. Yeah. Because it cannot be clearer than that. They don't want to be with you. It's not that they don't want to be with anyone. They don't want to be with you, and that's painful. And betrayal is an odd one as well, an odd one as well, because it kind of. So it changes it's weird to say that, but it changes the past. So you have this idea of the past being something that is fixed. And let's say I'm with this girl, we've been together for a whole year, and we had all these experiences, right? She went traveling by herself, did this and that, and blah, blah, blah. All these things happen. And then the moment that someone betrays you, you look back, and then you start thinking, well, was that actually happening? You know, when she was traveling by herself, where was she? Yeah. You know, when she said that, did she actually mean it? So it's not having a solid past. I think psychologically it's tricky. You need that foundation, right? Even though memories, somehow you're telling stories, they're not completely accurate. At least there's something solid there, right? When it gets kind of messy, you need to restructure a bunch of things, and that can be painful. That can be painful because you need to revisit it and think again, oh, I actually felt that way. And the more you put the pieces together and look in retrospective, the clearer it gets that, oh no, actually this was happening for a long time. I just didn't see it.
Right. So you can see the patterns looking back.
Yeah.
It's kind of like jiu-jitsu, right? Like you can see the patterns. Like if you end up in a submission, I was talking about Luke about this. If you end up in a submission, that means that you made a mistake along the way. So now you got to go back and see where you made a mistake. Yeah. It's the same thing in a relationship, right?
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. You have that kind of chronological thing, right? Yeah. I mean, I'm very grateful for Jiu Jitsu. It taught me so much. As I think personality-wise, I'm not confrontational. I'm very agreeable. It's just, I think it's a trait of my personality.
Same. Also, yeah.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, it's not good or bad, but it's just knowing that and being able to have a different mode to operate can be useful, especially if you're using that in a more business aspect where you don't want to be agreeable. Sometimes you don't want to compromise. And I also have this is also, it challenges me sometimes because I am compassionate by nature. Like I'm high in compassion. Since I'm a kid, and not to brag about it, like, oh, I'm someone that is someone that can be very empathic. None of it. It's just a trait of who I am. And a lot of times, especially when I'm negotiating, it's really tough, man. Firing people, it's one of the hardest things that I have to do because, I mean, you're there and you're saying, hey, you know what, like you're not good enough to work here. And then the person just tells you, but I have a family, I just had a kid, and you're going to do this to me, I don't have any money. And I mean, I cannot not take that into consideration. It's really hard for me. So Jiu-Jitsu helps me to kind of deal with those things, you know.
But how do you deal with it though? Because because you're an empath. We're the same. Like I'm also the same way. I'm like fuck. Yeah.
Right.
Fuck. Am I an asshole?
Am I being a prick? You know, like am I overlooking something?
Yeah.
So usually I try to make it quick and not give too much space, and then just sometimes it's much harder. But I try to be really direct and say, hey, look, I understand, right? I also have my personal problems, but I'm not bringing this in because it's not what we're discussing. I wish you luck. I'm not saying that they don't matter, but I can't. I'm not gonna compromise everyone because of you, right? And sometimes it's just a loop, you know, the person keeps coming back to the same thing, and then I just have to tell them, hey, look, I think this conversation is over. I have nothing else to say, you know, that decision is final. Or I'll put someone else to talk to them.
Yeah, that's the easy one, easier option, right? So did you put Casio on that? Yeah, talk to Casio.
You know what? Just talk to Gabi or Casio. I think they're going to do a better job at firing you than me.
So what's he like then? Is he also the same as you, or is he more stern?
No. He's more firm.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a lawyer as well. Since he's a kid, he's always wanted to be a lawyer. Yeah. He loves to argue.
By the way, Casio's Walter's brother.
Yeah, my younger brother.
Yeah.
So we're different in that aspect. Casio and I, we became friends after my 20s, I think. Before that, as kids, we used to play together a lot. And then when we became teenagers, I think both of us were going through different things. We traveled to Europe together for the first time, and we had this insane mushroom trip. Like I had no idea what I was signing for. It took me years to be able to figure it out what happened. It was really, really deep. And I think that sharing that kind of put us some kind of like I don't know, like hippie mystical way in a similar frequency, like in a similar vibe, and we started having similar challenges that brought us back together. I think that was one pivotal moment of our relationship where we were growing apart. We traveled together. We had this insane spiritual journey together, and it somehow bonded us after years, when I was able to kind of figure out what happened. Because I mean, I think mushrooms can be really useful, but if you don't know what you're doing and you don't have any guidance, I think you're gonna have to take a lot of steps back to be able to take a few steps further. So yeah, that was, I think, what helped us to reconnect somehow. And nowadays, we get along pretty well, but we have very different personalities.
Yeah, and the mushroom stuff is interesting, right? The plant medicine like helps you access the subconscious mind and bring up stuff that you wasn't aware of, right? So maybe that was the case for you. Like, it brought up some stuff that you weren't aware of that you could heal.
Yeah, a lot of things, and I don't like. When I was going through it, I think I was just trying to go through it, right? It like all these things were coming and going, but most of it was just like this sense of constant wonder. And I don't know. I think like I'm from Brazil, so I speak Portuguese and I've learned English, and I think it's a pretty interesting language, and the word awful to me, it's an interesting one because it's awe, which is something that should be good, but then you're so full of awe that it's a bad thing. So I think that was my experience with mushrooms for the first time. It was just too much. It was overwhelming. But it for sure opened up a lot of different things. And after that, I got back at experimenting with mushrooms later on, maybe like 4 or 5 years down the line, and then I was more equipped to handle it, right? And still, I think every time that you do something, you work with something like this, I mean, I see it as work. It's not, it can be if you have a little bit and you want to have fun. Like, I look forward to it sometimes, but for a different reason. Not, this is going to be pleasant or fun, I'm going to have a great time. It's just, I need more perspective, I need to reset, or I need some time for myself, or I'm struggling to find a solution for a complex problem, all these things, and then mushrooms can definitely help.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, plant medicine is very powerful.
It really is.
Yeah. If anyone ever tried it, like, I'd recommend trying at least once, right?
Yeah,
at least try it one
sure.
time.
Yeah, I think that for me at least, one of the most important things would be the certain settings. So if you can be with people that you feel comfortable with, or someone that is more experienced in a place that you feel that that you feel safe, I think that you most likely have a better experience. Yeah,
you want to be with someone who's just, when they take it, it's just crazy.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah,
I had some really, this experience that I had in Europe was, it was intense, but it wasn't bad. It was just really, it was the first time as well. But I had some really bad trips also, or especially with acid, that it was just this huge confusion. And when I look back, I think, you know what? It was just, I wasn't in a good mindset. I wasn't really connected to the people I was there. I barely knew them, all those things. So I think this really matters.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why one of the reasons why, like, if I'm going to a ceremony, I have to be very sure about the people there.
Yeah.
You know, like who's going, you know?
Yeah, who's gonna be there? If there's someone guiding it, who is it? Someone holding space. Yeah, I went to America when 2019. Yeah, 2019, and long story short, I was listening to this guy called Paul Chek.
Oh yeah.
Which is really interesting, and he's into plant medicines, and I think his partner is a shaman. So they were talking, and then she shared about a course that she did in California. Yeah, in California, that studied. I think it was kind of Kundalini. So they didn't do plant medicine, but they studied energy and I think Tantra, not so much the sexual part of Tantra, but the more spiritual and energetic part of it. And I went there to do their course, and it was really interesting. And it it really helped me to hold space, to learn how to hold space. And I think that's a major thing. If you're ever going to do any type of, even if you're not using plant medicine, even if you're just doing breath work, it can be super powerful too. Having someone that can hold space, that you feel comfortable, that you think it's responsible and strong enough to be able to hold space, can change your experience dramatically.
Makes it infinitely better.
Yeah.
Because you're just able to relax completely and just like
surrender.
Surrender.
Yeah, absolutely.
That word comes up a lot in these podcasts, and there's a book there. It's called Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you've heard of it.
No.
Yeah, and it's just a book about Michael Singer's like one of my, and I wouldn't say one of my favorite authors, but he's got a book called The Untethered Soul.
Right.
And that's another book of his. But yeah, just surrendering. Like he surrendered, and he was a yogi, and then they built $100 million business by just surrendering to everything.
Yeah.
Like, instead of like arguing with people, he's like, oh, this person's here for a reason, let's just do whatever they're proposing. And then that's how he was able to succeed. Is that something that you've experienced in your life, just surrendering to things?
Absolutely. Like trying not to resist so much.
Yeah.
I had that with the Loft. Yeah, because I had to close the Loft in Canggu.
Yeah.
Because
the Loft is your restaurant.
My restaurant.
In Canggu. I was so sad about that, like when it closed. I mean, everyone was, all your customers were.
Yeah, heartbreak.
Yeah.
For me, it was heartbreaking because I dedicated 4 years of my life to that project, and I enjoyed it a lot. And we made through COVID, which was nuts.
You were thriving through COVID. Well, I don't know the ins and outs of your business, but from the outside looking in, it looks like it was thriving.
Yeah, we were able to pay debts through COVID, right? I mean, the restaurant was paying itself. I didn't see any money from it for over 2 years, which was... but I was still motivated to work, to be honest. I felt responsible for people that worked there and how hard they were trying, how much they were compromising as well. But I couldn't manage to make it work with one of my business partners. And a lot of it was me resisting it. I don't want to close. We cannot manage to work together, but it's fine. I'll find a way, blah, blah, blah. And then the moment I said, you know what, maybe it's not supposed to be, I should just really give it up. And then something better might happen. And we closed. Then I had people approach me to do something new. And then it opened up. Something I think better opened up, So I think that I tried to pay attention to where there is so much resistance. There is too much resistance in my life, and try to, why am I resisting this? And if I can, then I would just surrender to it. Just allow myself to, which is also I think you at the end of the day you need to do some questioning, and then sometimes you need to push through. Feels like things are conspiring against, and then you push through, and then something really nice comes out of it. But sometimes it's just time to let go. Yeah.
Do you feel like it always helps when you surrender, or is there times, like you said, where you need to push through?
I think sometimes you need to just push through. Yeah. It's hard. I don't think anything is black and white, as in, oh no, it's just you surrender to the process and everything is good. I don't know, like for instance, intimate relationships, like personal relationships, I think sometimes you need to do the work. Not sometimes, most of the time, all the time, you really need to do the work. And then, of course, inside of it, you can look at things and then break it down and then distill it a little bit more and say, okay, I will surrender to the process to make the work, right? And then I don't know if that's it becomes more a semantic thing, like what words are you using and whatnot. But I feel that as an energetical aspect, sometimes you really need to just put the will and the intention there to make it happen. And it's part of the process as much as surrendering. Yeah.
So how did you get over that issue with your business partner? Like, how did you overcome that? How did you deal with that?
I think that I'm slowly making peace with it. He's a nice guy, and he's a good friend as well. We were never very close, but we both did some really shitty stuff, you know. And then, of course, I'm going to think that I'm in the right, and he's going to think that he's in the right. But we have some friends in common, so I just messaged him recently and told him, hey, look, whatever happened, and I did this and that and whatnot, you know, I'm sorry. I think it's better now. We're moving into different directions. Yeah. And I just hope that I don't think we're ever going to be friends, and it's none of our intention to be friends or connect, but if we're in the same space, that at least we can go there and say hi to each other, you know. And I'll always be polite to him, his wife, if I see his kids as well. And I don't want to hold any resentment against him, right?
That's a nice way to end I know the relationship ended before, but just to leave it in a way where, like you said, if you saw him at the cafe and that you're the same cafe you're in, you can say hello.
Yeah, I often think about that. For me, it takes me more energy to ignore someone than to acknowledge them.
Good point, yeah.
Right? If let's say that we have some type of unresolved thing, and then we're sitting across each other, if I feel that if I go to say hi or just nod my head and say, hey, I see you there, and then go about my meal, it's easier than pretending that I don't see you. You know? Yeah. It just requires less of me. And so I think that's
a good way to look at it, because a lot of people look at it the other way around. Like, they think in their mind, they think it's less energy to ignore them, but it's actually more energy to ignore them.
So much more. Yeah. It's constant, right? Yeah. The whole time that I'm there, I'm thinking, oh, he saw me, I saw him, and we're pretending that we did it. And it's just through my whole meal, that thing is in the back of my mind.
Yeah. They're like owning real estate in your mind.
Exactly. Yeah. And instead of just, and then done, that's done. Yeah. I mean, if the other person wants to completely ignore me, it's fine, right? Then I know, okay, I try to say hi, they ignore me. So that's our relationship now. I mean, because before we said anything or before we acted on it, I don't know what is it, right? Because there's so many unresolved things, we haven't talked, so I don't know if you're going to ignore me or whatever. And then if I finally find out, oh, you know what, no, he's completely ignoring me, then it's okay, right? At least now I know.
Yeah. Yeah, true. And so you have two chains, two restaurants, right? The Loft in Uluwatu and Loft in Canggu. And so now one of them is gone. Then what are you thinking? Are you thinking, oh, fuck, what am I going to do? What was going through your mind at this time?
Yeah, that was one of the hardest things to let go of it, because it was just it was part of my day working there. A huge part of my day working there. And then part of it was really just thinking about what brought me to the realization was that I was walking with my girlfriend at the beach one day, and we take our dog for walks in the mornings, and she said something and I got really annoyed at her, and it was related to this partner. And then I thought, this is not worth it. This is really not worth it. Keeping the loft is making me have a very serious discussion with my girlfriend where we were questioning if we should still be together. And then I thought, wow, this is all, the more I let this grow, the more power I'm giving to this guy, which it's, do I want that, right? And then once I realized that, it was easier to let go of it. It was not a fair exchange, you know? And then when we closed it, some people approached me, why did you close? I don't understand. The place was doing well. I was always there for lunch. I had to wait. There was no place to sit. Are you thinking about doing something new? And then I thought, yeah, maybe, you know, I wasn't planning so much. Would be nice to just step away from it for a little bit to regroup. And but then then people asked me, and it was kind of quick. I think in a few months I was able to raise enough money to open a new place, and it's almost done. I think 2 months away, and it's pretty close to the loft as well.
Yeah, you can walk there from the loft. It's walking distance from the old place.
Yeah, so and I got to do it the way that I wanted to. I have more control over the whole thing. People that invested in it, they trust me. I know them as well. And I got to partner up with people that I admire and respect. And I learned a lot from what happened in my previous businesses. Yeah.
So now looking back at it, you're like, oh, this happened for me. But at the time, maybe you couldn't see that, right?
Not at all.
You're like, oh, fuck.
Not at all. You just get upset and angry and think it's unfair. It's so funny how we think things are unfair, right? Oh, wow, this is just as if, you know, they had to be somehow fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's actually something that I've had a reframe on very recently. It was just like, every negative thing that happens to me, I look at it as, oh, it's happening for me.
Yeah.
Like there's some good in this. Like Luke was just talking about, we'll touch on this too about your injury, but Luke was just talking about his knee injury and how since his knee injury, he spent 36 hours, like, you know, being emotional about it, like, because it's a hard thing to take on, right?
Yeah.
Just blew out your whole knee.
Yeah, yeah.
But then after that, he's like, got to work, and then now it's opened up all these new avenues. Like he's now focused on other things.
Yeah.
And it's often like that, right? Like you have something bad happen to you, but it actually helps you with other areas of your life, or brings new opportunities that wouldn't have happened if this bad thing wouldn't have happened.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Breaking
my collarbone helped me to reconnect with my girlfriend. That was so when I started training, we started dating. So that was about 2.5 years ago or something. And then right when COVID started, she went back to Australia, but then she got stuck there because of the restrictions. And we were away for 6 or 7 months, which was tough, was really hard.
Yeah.
I almost broke up, but then we didn't. And you know how things, like these things, they go back and forth, right? At first it was me that said, oh, you know, I don't want to be together. And then she said, no, I want to. And then she came back. And then there was a kind of change where she said, no, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And I thought, no, maybe we should give it a go. But so she came back, and we were not very connected, right? Like I haven't seen her for 6-7 months. I didn't want to be together anymore. I mean, 6 months away is just too long, you know. And yeah, and it's tough because I don't want to cheat if I'm with someone.
Yep.
And then I thought, no, you know what? Like I'm climbing walls. Like I can't wait anymore, you know. And then you start sort of wondering, and then you go out with a friend, and you're like feel attracted, and it's sweet because you're dating, right?
Yep.
So yeah, luckily we decided to be together, to stay together. And then right after she came back, I was taking it a lot in Jiu Jitsu, right? Like, was not escaping on it, but most of what I was dedicating my time to was not my relationship, but Jiu Jitsu. And then taking a pause, like injuring myself and having to take a break and not being able to even shower by myself, brought us together, right? Like allowing someone to take care of you, it can really, help you to bond, right? Because it's not that easy either. A lot of times I don't want people to take care of me, right?
Struggle. So it sounds like a struggle with receiving.
Yeah.
Like because you give a lot.
Yeah.
But receiving it's
difficult.
Like me, same with me.
It is. Yeah, you're right. It is. It's not the easiest thing to receive. And so, it was this kind of blessing in disguise. And also it showed me how much I enjoy Jiu-Jitsu, because coming back was also tough. Because you guys kept going, right? Especially you and Chris, because we've all kind of started at the same time. We graduated it at the same time. And then I thought, man, I'm going to go back. And then Aaron and Chris are going to fucking destroy me.
Which is not happening, by the way. But it's interesting. But go, carry on.
Yeah. And it wasn't so much about, I'm going to get injured again. I wasn't worried with that, but I was worried that I was going to suck. Yeah. Right? I'm going to go back and all these new guys are just going to smash me, and then Justin's going to take my belt back. And tell you don't deserve this, I've made a mistake. Give me your belt back. And, so that was difficult. Overcoming that was challenging too.
Yeah. How long has it been now since you've been back? It's been a few months now.
It's 6.
Yeah.
6 or 7 months.
Yeah. And that, when you injured yourself, that was crazy, because we were rolling that together at the time when I saw the footage back, and it's just I never thought that you broke anything.
Me neither. Yeah. It didn't. I didn't feel that. I think it was just unlucky, to be honest. Yeah. When I hit it, and the sound of it and the pain, I knew that it wasn't just a normal injury. But I was in denial. I drove to the hospital. Actually, I drove home. And then again, Jem came home and she looked at me and said, dude, what's up? And I told her, and she said, we need to go to the hospital. And I said, no, it's fine, blah, blah, blah. And she said, no, you're tripping out. Let's go to the hospital right now. And then they did an X-ray, and the guy told me, hey, you broke it. It's I can see it. It's very broken. Damn. And still I was thinking, I was Googling it and researching it. Oh, you don't need to do surgery. And then I saw a doctor by a recommendation of a friend, and he told me, no, you need to, you have to. I mean, unless you're going to have a kind of lose mobility and have a weird kind of shoulder thing happening, you have to do a surgery. And and then I thought, well, I wish I had health insurance.
That's always a way, isn't it? Bali.
Yeah, man. If you train martial art, I still don't have it, which, I mean, I should learn better from it, but I think it's a good thing to have. It was chill. The surgery was just painful, man. That's it. Just the pain is annoying, but it's not the. I mean, I can't even. I can compare it to something more like looks. Knee. Another friend of mine just had a knee surgery as well. Especially anything below your waist, right? Because you're just carrying your whole weight. Collarbone, it's painful, but I think the recovery was fine. I removed the plate as well because it was a bit uncomfortable. And after 3 or 4 months, the doctor told me, hey, if you want to go back at training, it's fine. But I thought, no, you know what? I'm going to wait for this plate thing. I'm just going to remove the plate and then I'll go back. Yeah.
Interesting looking back on it though, right? Like that time where your head was at then and compared to now, like looking back at it?
Yeah. I was so upset with it at first that I couldn't train, and I was worried financially as well. COVID, and then the restaurant is not giving me much income, and now I have to pay for this, blah blah blah. But yeah, it's like what you're saying. Things happen, and they happen for you. I don't think anything conspires against you. It's just life. Like life is extremely complex.
Yeah.
Right. You can't. It's so nuanced as well. You can't say this is this, that is that. It's just how you react, how you respond, and how do you understand. All this is just constantly shifting. And yeah, it's good to look back on things and then realize, oh wow, I didn't see that back then. And I think it comes with age as well. If you're paying attention, where things happen now, and then I kind of can use the same perspective, right?
Yeah.
Oh wait, just give it time.
Yeah, and it also helps you have more power in the present, right? Because then you're like, oh fuck, I was like that back then when you broke your collarbone, you were like super upset and sad, and you're fuck, like why has this happened to me? All this stuff, and then now you look back at it, you're like, oh, that happened, and then I helped me reconnect with my girlfriend, and this happened.
Yeah.
So it's like everything. There was so much good that came out of that.
Yeah. And I don't know if you feel the same way, but there's this weird thing that I think I just realized it now, but you sort of feel proud of those struggles, right?
Yeah.
Like when I share stories as, I had an accident, or whatever happened between me and my ex-girlfriend, or my dad passing away, you kind of feel, oh, I've overcame this, and then there is a sense of growth in it, where you just acknowledge it and understand how much it empowered you going through that experience. While in the moment you're just feeling sorry for yourself, and sometimes you just go through the whole victimizing thing, and it just puts you down. But yeah, even when I share with people that, hey, I broke my collarbone and I'm training again, I feel like, yo, look at that's cool, right? That's inspiring. And then if someone is injured, then I tell them, no, it's fine, right? It's okay. You can come back. It's fine. I did it, right? I did it. You can definitely do it.
Exactly. And yeah, man, like I always knew I always knew you were gonna come back. Like I was just like, oh, it might take a while,
Yeah.
like maybe like a year. Was it a year?
It was 6 or 7 months.
Okay, yeah. But it was a while. And I was like, damn.
Yeah.
But I actually didn't think it was going to take that long for you to recover.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think it was a big injury. But then when I heard you had a play, I was like, oh, damn.
Yeah, me neither. I didn't know. After I think 2 months or 3 months, I was able to do push-ups and chin-ups, but I was still a little bit scared of coming back and training.
Do you have any fear now, like when you're rolling or anything with the shoulder?
I think I should, though. I'm trying not to be that reckless anymore. But it doesn't even cross my mind, to be honest. I think it's good, but at the same time, I should be a little bit more careful, because I really don't want to get injured again. Yeah.
But it's always good to overcome adversity, right? Like to get knocked down and get back up again.
Yeah.
That's what's cool about life, I think.
Yeah.
That's why people like Jiu Jitsu and martial arts and stuff.
Yeah.
It's because you're getting knocked down and you're getting back up, and you're pushing yourself to the limits and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. What I like about Jiu Jitsu a lot is that it's really, or any martial arts, I guess, it's that it's really, and I'm not picking on other things, but it's just truthful. I enjoy yoga, and I practice yoga a lot. But the thing that in yoga, if anyone does whatever hour teacher training, becomes a teacher, is a little bit disappointing to me, because not everyone is ready to become a teacher just because they put the hours there.
Yeah.
And with Jiu-Jitsu, it just shows. It just shows, some people are more skillful.
Yeah.
Some people just put more time and more effort there. And then it's your own merit.
Yeah.
Like if you're changing belts, it's on you. You did it. Right? When you submit me, it's on you.
Yeah.
You were the one that did it, right?
Right.
It's not everyone participated and everyone gets a prize. And I missed that. I missed it. right? I think it's important to understand that hard work pays off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then life is just not easy, and it's not just because you show up that therefore you're gonna get something out of it. Sometimes it's not, man.
Yeah, like the participants medals. Like,
Exactly.
no,
it's not. It's really not. And it shouldn't be, because it's just, I don't think it reflects what's actually out there. For more that you want to protect people and then put them in a bubble or whatever you do it with kids and whatnot. Once you go out into the real world, then yeah, you're dating a girl and she decides to be with another guy, and then what, right?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do about it?
Yeah,
because it's real. It happens.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that again. Like, so what? How did you like process that? Like,
dude, that one was
must have
hard.
took you a long time to really overcome that.
Yeah, it was difficult. Yeah, I had to kind of snap out of it, because it was just, I was feeling miserable. And it was also preventing me from connecting with other people. Because then the thing with, I think, betrayal, in I think it's just such a ancient motive as well. You know, it's like something that's been, stories being told for, I don't know, it's like biblical stuff, right, about betrayal. It's that it just, you kind of grow it out of proportion, and then you think that everyone else is going to do that with you, right? Which it's not. It's just, I think, in a way we're wired to be more concerned about threats and bad things, because if someone is loving with me, I'm not going to assume that everyone else is going to be loving. But the moment that someone does something to me that, you know, hurts my feelings, or you cheat on me or whatever, then I'm instantly going to assume, oh wow, now I need to be careful, because other people can do that with me. And yeah, and I mentioned it before. I talked a bit about Jordan Peterson, but he was like, his stuff on YouTube was what actually got me out of it. I've watched, I think, I don't know, man, hundreds of hours of his content.
Wow.
Yeah, on personality, on like his biblical lectures, all his lectures on like all his university courses. All of it really helped me to. Then I read Maps of Meaning. I read his book After as well, that's 12 Rules for Life. And it helped me to, just paint a better map of reality, like frame it and understand why this happened, what does it mean. And I did his self-authoring program as well, which you kind of write a autobiography. And he says something that if you have any painful memory that is older than 6 months or a year, is something that you should address and try to figure it out. And yeah.
Interesting. So you wrote your own autobiography?
Yeah. Oh. It's a course, not a course, like a software that he has online. And he just gives you some guidelines to write your own biography. And then you read it through, and there is this thing where writing helps you to heal, I guess, to overcome challenges. And I think that was one of the main things. And and then through it, I met some really kind girls as well. And then I had some good relationships too. And I dealt with them in a more positive and healthy way when we decided not to be together anymore. And and then after a few years or so, I ended up meeting Jem. So yeah.
How's that going now, your relationship with Jem?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah?
I really love her. She's a great partner. And we have a very similar sense of humor too. And I think that the longer you are with someone, the more you develop this beautiful and very meaningful partnership and friendship. And I never had that before, right? And it's the first time that I'm actually living with someone, and we have a dog together, and we have responsibilities together, and We have our businesses. We help each other financially. We understand what not to do to piss each other off, but at the same time we can make fun of it. It's I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, that's nice. And do you think there's like a deep trust and respect between you both?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I think you need it. I don't know if now, I'm 34 now, I don't know if I would be with someone that I don't see a future together. Right? I mean, maybe if it's a little fling and you're going out for a few weeks or whatever, yeah, but I wouldn't date someone if I don't think that we can be together. And and then there is a whole theme on monogamy and whatnot, which is, I think, a different conversation. But yeah, I love Jem, and I'm very happy that we're together. Yeah.
It's awesome, yeah.
Yeah.
Because relationships are tough, man. Like,
they're really hard.
So, like, how long have you guys been together now?
2.5 years. I mean, it's not that long,
Yeah.
But it's the longest that I've been with someone. So for me, it's the longest that I know of. I've never experienced anything longer than that.
And that's that reflects on your growth as well as a person, because to be able to have the longest relationship means you're growing, right?
Yeah. And I think a part of it is that you're ready to have that relationship.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's a part of you that I don't know. Yeah, that is ready to commit and then do it. Because I think that before I in my mind I fantasized about, I want to be with someone, blah blah. But then I would be with someone, and then I didn't want it to. Right after a few months, I just figured out I don't actually want to. I don't want to. I want to do other things. I don't want to be here. I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to not do what I want to do. All these things. So yeah.
But do you feel like that with her though, or do you feel different?
I feel. Yeah, no, I feel different.
Yeah.
It's weird as well, because there's a bunch of things that I think I don't want to do, but when I do them, I actually enjoy it. Right? For instance, like waking up and walking my dog at the beach. I don't know, like sometimes I wake up and I'm like, I don't want to do it. But then I go and I actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, it's just a small example, but I think I can apply that to other areas of my relationship and my life as well, where I think that, I don't want to do that, blah, blah. Maybe I'm lazy, maybe I'm bored, maybe I want to stay home and play games. I don't know. But then I go and do it and I actually enjoy it. And also, I think she's very chill and I'm also the same when she wants to do something or I want to do something. It's okay, we can give each other a break, right? She's back in Australia now with her family, and yeah, it's great. It's good to have the house for myself, and I'm having a great time taking care of our dog by myself as well. And I know that she's enjoying her time with her family. So I think it's good, positive.
Yeah. Sorry, the comedian in me was like, so now you're living your best life.
Right, yeah. Dude, I moved my couch or I moved my bed into the living room. And then I borrowed a friend PS4, and that's been my week. That's it. Yeah. Like I train, I work, blah, blah, come back home, and my bed is in the living room with the PS4 and yeah. Like a kid's dream,
That's cool because, you're keeping that playfulness. Because, that's another thing, like when adults get older, we just like, a lot of us just don't play anymore.
Yeah.
So like keeping the PS4, like before people be like, why you're an adult, why you got PS4? It's like, that's what you like to do.
That's my dream. Since I'm a kid, I've kind of thought to myself, when I have money, then I won't have to ask my parents to buy me games. I would just buy them myself, and I'm living that for the past 10 years.
Yeah.
I go and I buy whatever I want, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess, I think you're right. If you manage to keep that fun and playfulness in your life, by all means. I mean, that brings meaning to it.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. And it's so important to have that, because otherwise you just get serious. That's why I started comedy, because I was like, fuck, I'm getting too serious. And I haven't done it for a while, but like I still like it. It's just a hobby, you know?
I really admire that.
Yeah,
the fact that you can do stand-up comedy. When I heard that joke that you did with Ian, I thought, dude, that's legit. Seriously, wow. Respect, man.
But that's what comedy is, right? It's like pushing the limits, being on the edge.
Yeah. 100%.
And sometimes it offends people, but that's not the intention.
But that makes it funnier.
Always does, yeah. Yeah, always does, yeah.
Yeah.
Man. So going back to why did you start a business in Bali? What was the thinking behind that?
So the reason why I moved away from Brazil was first the whole thing with my family, but also there is this, and I mean, I love Brazil. It's a great place, and if you've never visited in South America, I highly recommend it. But there is something with the violence there that is a little bit disturbing, right? And I mean, I was robbed a few times. I avoid being robbed a few times as well, because you have to be alert constantly, right? You need to be paying attention. Who's walking next to you? Where are you going? What time of the day is this? Anything feels suspicious? So I never thought about actually working there, like opening a business there. And then I moved to Bali, and I had the opportunity of opening a restaurant. A friend of mine invited me. He wanted me to do the design for it, and said, you know what, I think we can, I think it's going to be good to work together. And he had a place in Australia, and he was moving here, and that's how it happens. It was like a chance, and I've learned a lot working with him. And and I actually enjoyed it a lot. I never thought about having a restaurant before. It wasn't something that I don't know. I never even imagined owning a restaurant, a cafe, or anything like it. But I had the chance, and I enjoyed it. I needed the money back then as well, and the place was, when we first opened the Loft, it was thriving. The quantity of people that came, I was amazed by it. I didn't know that it could perform so well so quickly. It was wild. And then Bali also was so busy back then.
When was this?
4 or 5 years ago.
So 2017, 2018?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Canggu was the place to be. You know, everyone was starting to discover it. And then it was those old man's Wednesdays, you know, right when the Sunday Adeus was starting to fade away, and then people were like getting to go to old man's and then Sandbar.
That's when I first came to Bali, 2018. Old man's Wednesdays.
Everyone was coming and staying there. And the whole coffee shop scene was and I think, maybe I'm wrong, but I think that it was also when the whole influencer thing was becoming more of a profession, right? When people were actually making good money out of it by promoting places, traveling, doing all those exchanges. And that is another partner, another one that I had the disagreement with. At the end, we also had he was a really good friend of mine, him and his girlfriend. But we fell apart, and then we ended up buying him out, and he moved into doing different things. He's really good at working with hospitality. He opened, I think, 3 new places in Uluwatu. I'm pretty sure that they're doing very well. So him and his girlfriend were really good at working with influencers. Really, really good. Which was also a funny kind of, it's a funny area to kind of, I don't know, dab into, right? People that work with it, they're very particular about certain things, which can be quite comical. I had this one girl that had an account with, I don't know how many hundreds or whatever followers, and she also had an account for her dog that had a lot of followers. And if you wanted her to come and promote your place, you had to promote her dog. So you had to, that was the deal. So she would come, and she would come with the dog, and then you had to have a table for the dog, and the dog would eat at the table. So the dog would sit on the seat, like the chair, and then you had to put a little bowl for him, and he would eat at the table, and you had to take pictures. She took pictures and said, "Oh, this place is dog friendly. My dog likes the food." Blah blah blah. So you had things like this happening.
So are you working with influencers now for your new place? Your new place is called Sunday.
Yeah.
People listening.
I don't know if it's the same anymore. Maybe I'm gonna be a little bit more selective. I'm very grateful for the work that they do. It helped to launch the Loft. That's what made it successful.
The influencers.
Yeah. That's what brought people in. It was a cool place to come, making the food looks beautiful, and I think it was that kind of started with writing things on the smoothie bowls. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They used to they would write with mangoes, like good morning, hello, Bali babes, all those things. So that became a trend back then as well. And then everyone would come to take pictures, right? You had a feature wall.
This is in Uluwatu or Canggu?
Canggu first.
Yeah, the Canggu one's first, right?
And then Uluwatu after. Uluwatu started picking up. I mean, it was always a destination, especially for surfers. But on this coffee restaurant scene, I think it started developing quicker about 3 years ago, where now you have other places opening there.
Yeah, it's
too.
quite a lot now.
Yeah.
On that strip where your restaurant is.
Yeah. Someone told me recently that Alchemy, which is a big place in Ubud, is opening the second one in Uluwatu now.
All right.
Yeah.
It's cool. I think Uluwatu needs more places.
I agree.
There's not many there. There's not many places there, good restaurants.
They're opening a massive gym there as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, kind of Nirvana style. Movement, CrossFit. I know the people that are opening. The project looks beautiful. Yeah. So I think it'll bring more people to stay there, right? Yeah.
So are you in like a network of business owners in Bali or something? How's it work here?
You kind of end up being in it. Sort of, everyone. I mean, I don't think people know me or Walter personally, but they know, the guy that owns the Loft. So it would be the guy that owns the Loft now is opening this place, or opened a place in Ubud. So you end up knowing, I know that I was telling you about this new place in Brawa, and I know, the guy that did it is the chef that owns another restaurant, and then they've opened in Jakarta, or they did this and that. So it's a small group of people that kind of, what everyone else is doing just by talking to other people in the same area.
Yeah. So how is it having a business, like you never perceived that you would have a restaurant. So now you have a restaurant, we have two of them, right?
Yeah.
Sundays and the Loft in Uluwatu. How has that changed like your view of business and just your life in general?
I think part of it was having people working with me. At one point with both lofts, I had more than 50 people working with me.
Damn.
Around 60 or so. And I never thought that would happen, right? Mm-hmm. It's a bit overwhelming, but at the same time, it brings a different layer of responsibility. And I think that's one of the things that motivated me through COVID, knowing that so many, of course that if they lose their job, they're not going to die out of hunger, but still you feel like, I'm part of this person's financial stability is working with me. So I'm going to make sure that everything is, like, if I can make sure that everything is running, then, it's a whole ecosystem around it. It's not only me taking dividends, there's so many different gears that are functioning in order for this to happen. So that was quite something. I always worked for someone, you know. I seemed like I had a boss, or I was freelancing for a little bit as well, which was a bit different, but I never had, I don't know, like so many people working and I'm in charge, right? Like the decisions that I make are going to affect their job, right? If suddenly I decide to make the loft vegan, then this is going to affect whatever, you know, their work, how many people are coming, how much money they're getting, all these things. So it's different. It has, I mean, it's a weird thing, and I don't know. It has some type of what is it? I don't know if it's power. Like I don't feel empowered that I own a place, but you have some authority, and your decisions are gonna influence. It's like a chain of reaction, right?
It must be quite overwhelming at the start to have all that responsibility.
Totally.
Like, fuck, I'm like, damn, I'm the fucking boss now. Like,
yeah, and it was really because it was very sudden. So I had this. I started the loft with me, and then this guy that I work with now. We're still partners in Uluwatu, but we decided to terminate the partnership, and a couple. Right, another Brazilian guy, and his girlfriend is from Sweden, and they were the ones that were taking care of it. I mean, they're really good at operating. They're great managers, and I was kind of he's kind of like a right-hand assistant. Right, I was learning. I wanted to learn how to do it and what to do it. I was curious as well. But he was in charge, right? He would manage it, operate it, go into the kitchen, come up with the menu. I would help to design the space, and I had I like to cook, so I had some ideas of dishes and whatnot, but I wasn't in charge of it. And then it's kind of, I don't know exactly what happened, but he's not the best with finances. So I think that he was using the loft's money as his own because he owned a bigger percentage of it.
I see.
So when we looked at the numbers, it was a little bit odd. You know, there was a bunch of money missing. I don't think that he was stealing it willingly, but I think he was getting confused with, I'm spending this money, I'll eventually pay later, or I'm working so hard, I deserve this. I don't know exactly what was going through his head. And then I don't think we handled it the best way. I think as a friend, because he was really close to me, I should have come to him and say, hey, dude, look, you know, this is the company money, it's not your money. Do you need money? What's going on? Maybe we can arrange something. But I got carried away by what was happening in the middle, and I decided to step away and not deal with it. And then my brother, Casio, and this other partner that we're partners now, were the ones that kind of went in and they took care of the situation. And it was really weird because then we had to involve lawyers and the cops, and we had to do testimonials and go to the police. And suddenly I was sitting across the table with a lawyer in the middle talking to a friend of mine. Wow. It was really, really strange. I hope I never have to go through it again.
Damn. And do you think that's because you didn't deal with it yourself, or what?
I think so. Part of it, you know, I just delegated it to someone else, and I completely thought that it wasn't my responsibility. I just stepped away and said, you know what, you guys are saying that he's stealing. I don't know, or you know, I don't think so, but whatever, right? I'm just gonna step away, and then I'll let you, Casio, take care of it, and then it just got really messy. But anyways, this lasted a few months, and we at the end bought him out. But then suddenly I was in charge, right? It wasn't I opened a place and then gradually, or I was in charge since the beginning. It was a change of management almost overnight, right? Where he was in charge, Suddenly we took all his shares away. He froze the bank account. It was a huge mess. And then we finally managed to come up to an agreement where we bought him out. And then I was in charge. And then I had 60 plus people working with me. And it was a bit overwhelming,
Shit. Yeah. Like, oh shit, I'm in the driver's seat.
Exactly. I'm piloting this thing and I don't even, and then luckily I had the skills to keep operating it, but I learned a lot as things kept moving,
Yeah, because that has been like intense on the job learning,
For sure. Yeah.
It's a crash course now. You got to figure it out.
Totally.
Now you got 60 people depending on you.
Yeah, and the whole team was really shocked by it as well, right? Like, I can only imagine what we're going through their mind, but suddenly one of the partners is out and then he was stealing money or whatever, and now I'm taking care, I'm in charge. And
did you tell the employees this? Or did you just...
Parts of it, yeah. I didn't disclose the whole thing, but I said, hey, look, we bought him out. And the Loft finances were such a mess. I think we're still paying debt.
Because of him?
Because of him, because of, a bunch of different things.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn. Sunday's opening.
Yeah.
You said 2 months.
Yeah.
And that's with new partners.
Yeah.
And these guys did you meet these guys in Bali? Because you said you admire and respect them.
Yeah, one of them, yes. The other one, I work with her at the Loft. So we work really well together. Mm-hmm. And then a third one, well, actually, my aunt and my uncle are part of it as well, which is easy. Cool. So they decided to invest. And
as investors?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. And then, that's it. Then my partner, not my partner, but my manager at the Loft now, she's working with me, which is great. We work really well together. And then another investor from Bali. Yeah, two investors from Bali.
So what's your role in these restaurants that you start up? Is it just mostly the design and
I think more operational.
Operations.
Yeah, okay. I do the design as well and help to create the menu, but it's operations and managing the team, training, working with them, and you kind of need to be inside to see what's working, what's not. During COVID, the Loft was a bunch of trial and error until we figured out what worked. I was trying different things, and then suddenly, you do something like carnivore bowl and people like it.
You making me hungry, man.
Yeah.
So I was eating the carnivore bowl, and sometimes if I wanted to eat carrot cake, that carrot cake was that was the best carrot cake I've ever had in my fucking life. Did Gabby make that, by the way? Because I know she made carrot cake.
Yeah, no, not that one.
Okay. Yeah. And what else? Yeah. Oh, I like the Mongolian beef bowl. That was good.
That's my recipe.
That was a new addition. Yeah. And then there's some breakfast. Was it? There's some breakfast wrap.
Yeah, that was good too.
Yeah, man, fuck.
So a lot of it was because we started it as Australian food, kind of brunch breakfast, and then I shifted it to Brazilian. So Brazilian food, you cook a lot with garlic and onion. You salted garlic and onion with butter to do a base, and then you put a little bit of salt, and then you cook on top of it. That's the base of Brazilian food, mainly. So I changed a bunch of it.
So good.
Like you cook rice with bone broth or chicken broth. It just adds flavor to it. So we started doing those things. Yeah,
and it tastes really good. Like the food, like that was... People ask me, where do you eat in Bali? And I was like, the Loft.
Yeah.
And then after the Loft's gone, like in Canggu, I'm like, it's kind of hard. Like I don't have a staple place anymore. Yeah, that was my number one place.
Well, I'm happy. Yeah. I was really happy that you just increased, that you guys actually liked it. Yeah. It meant a lot to me.
Yeah, it wasn't just because we know you. It's actually like exactly.
The food. Yeah. Like seeing Mike there as well. Hanson, it always made me happy. Right? Oh, wow, you guys actually like the food. That's awesome.
Yeah. And also credit to you guys too, because you have flexibility with the menu. Yeah. And basing it off the customers' feedback and stuff.
Yeah. So my idea was conceptually to do a restaurant that was inclusive. right? I didn't want to do anything exclusive. It was just regardless of what you want to eat, because you know about your diet, right? Like you put enough time and then effort into figuring out what to eat.
Yeah.
So whatever you want to eat, I'll try to provide a healthy option, right? If you want to eat carnivore, if you want to eat gluten-free, if you were vegetarian, it doesn't matter, right? There is going to be something there that it's catered to that diet, and then I'm making sure that it's clean and healthy and good, tastes good and all these things. So yeah, that was the main concept. That is the concept behind the Loft.
Yeah. So the food at Sunday is going to be similar?
I think Sunday I'm going to do Brazilian food. Yeah. Traditional home cooking. Yeah.
So is it going to be open all day, or is it just brunch? What's similar hours to the Loft, or?
I'm going to start opening it mornings and afternoons, and then if I have enough momentum, then I'm going to open for dinner. I'm going to try to risk less at the beginning, just have less mistakes and less room for error. When things are moving smoothly, then we can open longer hours. Probably I'll open 6 days a week and close one day to just clean everything, have a meeting with the staff, see if everything is running well.
And what's the vision, like, going beyond this? Like, so you open Sundays?
Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday. Why do I say Sundays? I'm thinking of Sunday's Beach Club.
Oh yeah, there is a Sunday's Beach Club. We got the inspiration from a place in New York called Sunday in Brooklyn, which is a really cool place.
I see.
Yeah, great food as well, good cocktails. And I used to follow them. I still follow them. Well, I actually not, because I'm not in Instagram so often anymore, but I used to follow a bunch of places in Instagram, and this was one of them. And I got a lot of inspiration from their work.
I see.
Yeah.
Right. So what's the goal next beyond that, beyond Sundays? Is there a goal? Or?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the only reason why I was able to do Sunday was because of the Loft. Right, so people would only trust me with their money because I had the Loft. If I was just a random person, say I had an idea of opening a restaurant, I don't think anyone would give me money to do it. So yeah, I'll wait to see what happens, right? Like because when you open a place, it kind of gets a life of its own. Like you can only steer it at one point. It just becomes something, right? I have an idea of what it will be. Then I open it, and then suddenly it starts to change, and I kind of can sort of give it direction, but it's sort of alive. And then wait a few months, see what's going on, how is it performing, and and then on to the next one probably.
In the same area or in Bali or? Yeah,
maybe. I think Sanur.
Okay.
Is a good place where I developed. There's not so many places there. Maybe Sese could be a cool place to have a small coffee shop.
So how easy is it to start business in Bali as a bule, as a foreigner?
The whole legal aspect of it can be a bit confusing. But if you've been here in Bali for a little while, you just understand how things work. And you just need to have patience. It's not super hard, right? Opening a company, getting money bringing money across, or you have to find people that you have to know, like builders that are actually, you're happy and you know that they're good and accountable. So having a small network is going to help. And then have patience, right? Like any construction, I guess you need to have the patience and not get upset with delays or angry. Or, for instance, there is Lebaran now, which is the end of Ramadan. And then I just need to I'm just going to stop the construction because everyone is going to go back home for 2 weeks. And there's what I can do, right? At first, I think people get here, they get upset. Oh, it's always a public holiday. It's always something. But that's just the way that it works. I think it is easy to start a bit. I think it's less the mistakes in Bali, they're less expensive. Like if you were to open a restaurant in the UK, you can't go wrong. Like if you're opening a restaurant in London, you can't afford to go wrong, right? It's very expensive to go wrong. In São Paulo is the same, and other big cities is the same, and Bali can be a lab. You can have a place like the guys that did Avocado Factory, and they wanted to do everything out of avocado. You can do it. I mean, I don't think it's gonna work, but you can do it. You can try it, and then see and learn from it and do something else, right? So I think Bali is a great lab. You can try different things. If it works, you can take it somewhere else, or just, have it here and then be successful here. It's great. And I think COVID showed us how much of a expat community, what's the size of the expat community? It can actually hold good places. I mean, of course, that part of it is going to depend on tourism, and you can make more money when the island is open. But I mean, a lot of places, they were doing well through COVID just because there is a expat community here that is big enough to keep an economy going, right? Between here, Brawa, Canggu, Pererenang, Sese, Seminyak was a little bit dead, but still, there is enough people living here. And a lot of people, not a lot of people, but sometimes people say to me, oh, but, I work with Balinese people, it's hard and whatnot. I don't know. I think maybe I was lucky, but I work with really competent people, and I can see when they want to learn, and then I give them more responsibility. I can delegate more to them. I use my time to try and teach them, right? Oh, why don't you think about it this way? Or I would think about it that way. And understand their culture to be able to bridge the gap, right? And it's just different. We all come from different places, and then we're trying to teach or to learn from each other. And Balinese people think differently. It's you need to get their trust to be able to create an open channel where they can actually share with you what's going on, what's wrong, what they think. They're not gonna come to you and say, oh, I feel this way, or you're doing this and it's wrong, or whatever. Yeah. They're just not gonna do it.
Yeah, you have to give them that safe space to be able to share.
Yeah, and when they share, you need to really make them understand that you need to incentivize it, right? So working with my managers, that's part of it, right? I let them do mistakes, and then I tell them, hey, maybe try and do it differently. And then when they do it differently, I tell them, yeah, well done, right? I don't acknowledge only the mistakes. I acknowledge when they do things right, because that's important. That's what I want to pin it down and say, hey, this is right. Well done, right? You did it right. And especially when it's on their own accord, when they take the initiative to do something. And when they're not afraid to decide things and then take calls and initiate it. So I think that if you have the time and you have the sensibility to see people, like to actually see people that are working with you, acknowledge their strengths, and then just push them, then it's fine. I have a great manager at the Loft. Now she's working in Uluwatu. And I remember when we started working together, she would hide behind the counter and cry. Like she couldn't handle it.
Wow.
Yeah, she just couldn't handle it. It was so hard for her. Just a constant need to please people, a little bit more submissive as well. She's a girl, and then the team was picking on her because she had a higher position, like she was their boss, but they would not respect her, especially the guys. And it's tough, right? And in my mind, like some of it don't make sense. I think I'll just tell them that you're gonna fire them. Like you have that authority, right? But that's not how it works. I don't even know if I would be able to do it. Like someone is bullying me, and then I'm their boss, and I just tell me, hey, so you're fired. Understanding it and then trying and helping her to navigate it, right? and also informing everyone, right? Like, look, she's the boss, right? Like giving her that acknowledgement and recognition in front of everyone. Yeah, I've learned a lot about managing people. I like it. It's a really rewarding thing to do, where you see that someone is actually learning from you and growing as a person. For instance, at the Loft, I have a pretty active lifestyle, and I'm aware of what I eat, and I saw people that work with me changing their eating habits and exercising because of the type of people that were coming to the Loft, right? From like not even knowing what gluten is or what is a whatever diet, to one of the girls that work with me said, I stopped eating fried food because it's making my skin too oily.
Wow.
And that's so beyond, right? And it can seem insignificant, but we're talking about a culture that only eats fried food. Okay, been eating fried food since forever, right? Everything is fried. And I don't know, it's you might take this with you, right? Just acknowledging it. What I eat impacts in my mood, in my, how am I feeling, or how do I look, and changing those habits. That's something that can really, it can affect you dramatically.
Yeah, that's powerful that they've just learned through osmosis, almost like being close to like the healthy lifestyle. They're starting to pick it up as well.
Just seeing people, and then everyone coming and ordering ginger shots. I want a ginger shot. I want a turmeric shot, and then they get curious, right? And then they ask me, it's okay if we have ginger shots, and I say, you can have as many ginger shots as you want, right? Like it's pretty cheap as well. It doesn't matter, and it's not that you're gonna be drinking like a whole jug of ginger. So then, just going to the restaurant and see them taking a break and having a ginger shot, right? And I'm trying to smoke less, or I started exercising. We had a staff room, and I put a video game for them, and also a rack to do chin-ups and some bands, and then they were using it, right?
That's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like you promote something, whatever you're doing, right? If it's a brand, or in my case it's a restaurant, but I would promote something through the food. But I also want the team to try and live that, right? Because it is something that I live, right? Exactly. I eat that food, like I eat the food at my restaurant. I'm not doing food that I don't eat. And whoever is coming there, if they're my friends or even people that I don't know, if they're being attracted because of something that I'm trying to tell, like a story, then I would appreciate for whoever works there to give it a go, right? And see how you feel, right? And it's fun as well.
It is, must be fun to see like your staff like getting healthier and just becoming more like you.
It is. It's
do you like water?
Yeah. it's rewarding. To have those little kind of glimpses, like a little insight on like this little moment when someone comes to you and say, I started going to the gym, or I started eating that or not eating that, or I want to lose weight, or I want to put on weight. It doesn't matter. Just intentionally making a change.
Absolutely, yeah. And so, what are the key lessons you've learned in managing people since you started this?
One of them is to acknowledge when they do something right. We tend to acknowledge when they do something wrong.
Right.
Most of the time, I think.
True.
Oh, don't do that, or why are you doing that? Right. I had there was this girl that worked with me, and for some reason, I don't know why, she never turned on the lights in the morning, so the place was super dark. So I would come, and then every day I had to ask her, could you please turn on the lights, or da-da-da-da-da-da. And then one day I came, and the lights were on. So then, like, my first impulse is not to say anything. It's like, oh, finally she did it, right? But then I called her and said, yeah, thank you for turning on the lights. And I think that sticked with her, because from then onward, she always turned on the lights. So, I mean, it's just a silly example, but I think you can apply to other things where you're constantly telling people when they do wrong things or when they do something that you don't like, blah, blah, blah. But when they finally do something that, it's funny because sometimes when they finally do something that you've been asking for, you look at them and say, oh, now it's too late.
Right. Yeah. True that. You're like,
nah, I had to ask so many times. You finally did it, but now I don't want it anymore. So that's a big one.
Yeah.
And then patience. And as a manager, understanding that, sometimes people are not cut for that job. They just don't like it. They're doing it because they need to. And maybe it can be one of those things that we were saying, that things that happen that in the moment it looks bad, but it's for their own growth. Maybe they shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
Also, I had a guy that worked as a barista, and I think he hated it. He was an awful barista, really bad. and I tried, and I tried to talk with him, and then I just told him, hey, look, I think you should be doing something else, right? He was really good at latte art, but that was it. I said, I don't know, maybe you like to draw? Maybe, you want to try something else? I didn't tell him you were an awful barista, but he was bad at managing the bar. He was bad at working with the team, at communicating, and working with the suppliers. He was just not good at all. He was great at drawing. So I think acknowledging people's weaknesses and strengths, sometimes reallocating people, right? And it's funny because you have so many examples. There was this one girl that was working on the floor. She was extremely shy, but she paid so many attention to details, and I put her at plating, and she was great. She never plated before, but just putting the dishes together, she had a really great aesthetic taste. So, I mean, you can look at how people are working and then realize, oh, you're not that good at this, but instead of changing your personality, why don't I try and then put you to work into something that you're more comfortable with?
And having that skill, like you have that eye to identify that in people.
You think you need to be there, paying attention. Yeah. I think attention is such it's one of the most powerful currencies, I guess, and overlooked. I don't think people realize how important it is. But just being there and sitting and then actually paying attention, you can see so much. And I think you have to care. So if it's your place, you care. Supposedly, I mean, if you're sitting there and then watching and then looking at things, then you can realize those little things, right? Oh, that person doesn't look that happy, or I don't think she likes to work with that guy, or whatever, or they really enjoy working together. And then try to rearrange a few things. don't give up on people. It's not 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 mistakes. It doesn't matter, you know. Just if I think that if things are not running really well, it's more a problem on you as a manager than on people working with you. Maybe it's your management style is not working, or you can't communicate a message across. So I think not giving up on people, and then trying to sit down on one-on-one and then talk to them. And again, here in Indonesia it's tricky because of first I don't speak Indonesian, which I'm pretty sure it would help me tremendously. So that's on me. And then also the cultural difference. But Indonesians, they speak good English.
Yeah.
So that helps a lot. And yeah, a lot of times was just sitting and then trying to, kind of like therapy, just sit with them and then, okay, let's figure it out. What is it?
Yeah.
Right? What's going on? And distill it, okay? And then try to give them the tools.
Yeah.
Right? And yeah, it's great. I mean, maybe for them here, or for other people as well, sometimes they weren't taught how to fix or figure out this more complex. Because I think with like most of like our problems, the problem is super complex. Like to break it down and to figure it out, it's complex. Most of the time, the solution is very simple, but implementing it is extremely hard. So you see that when someone is not involved in your situation,
yeah,
and then and they're like, man, it's very just stop smoking. That's it.
Yeah,
and they're like, hey, okay, but how, right? And then executing it is extremely hard. So then coming up with a plan on how to execute things is always helpful to realistically, right? Not, okay, if you want to stop smoking, let's say, I'm not going to say to you, oh yeah, so just stop smoking. I mean, I wish it was that easy, right? Just to say, okay. And if you've never had that problem, then in your mind, it's just, yeah, man, just stop it. Just wake up tomorrow and don't smoke a cigarette. It's not that complicated, but it is. Yeah. It really is.
Yeah. And I'll add into that, like your patience with these people, with your staff, like really helps. Like your temperament helps with connecting with them and getting the best out of them.
Yeah, I think the way that you talk and what words do you use, and I mean, all of it helps them to kind of feel like, oh, okay, you know, this guy is actually trying to help me. He's not just going to get angry at me and then explode and then fire me in front of everyone. And that helps a lot. I think it worked in my favor. I ended up falling into that position of managing people, and my temperament helped, right? I'm patient. Like I can be very tolerant. I can understand. I try to understand. I think I was more biased when I was younger, but nowadays, like I see different sides of the situation, right? Even when someone did something with me, or let's say it's something that made me really upset or angry, I try to kind of, okay, that's still my story. That's still my version of the story, right? If they were here telling their version, maybe I would be the villain.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it makes me more tolerant and patient, and that helps to talk with people, right? Because then I think they relate to it, and it's easier to connect. Yeah, and I enjoy it. I really do. I didn't think I would. I'm not very social. Like I have my moments, right? And then I need to just step away and then do my own thing. I'm good with smaller groups of people when there is a lot of people, I kind of get a little bit lost sometimes. So I didn't think I had the skill to be dealing with people, like working, training, and managing. But yeah, it's just a nice, lucky coincidence that my personality, it's fit for the job.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's like a perfect fit that you didn't think would be a perfect fit.
Yeah. I never thought about it, and
awesome. So yeah, we covered a lot in this chat. I want to finish up with a question that I ask every guest. It's funny. I just asked Luke this, and he was just cracking up. So, the question is, what is the meaning of life, in your opinion?
Ooh. Yeah. I think that I thought about it a lot, and I think that it is to give meaning to it. I think the meaning of life is the search of meaning, and if your life is meaningful, then I think it's worth living. And it's quite funny because I think that I even joke about it with a friend of mine, where we say that if you've never thought about killing yourself, it's just because you haven't thought long enough.
That's funny.
So I really think that it's worth living if you can find meaning. Right? I don't know who is it. Maybe it's Camus or something, an existential philosopher that he says something as in the only true existential question is, should I or shouldn't I kill myself? Because you need to have an answer that is good enough to justify you living, right?
Right.
Even if you're not fully aware of it, it could be anything, right? Or it's my family, it's my religion, it's my job, it's my own spiritual growth, it's how I relate to people, it's my financial aspirations or whatever. You need to have that framework of something that gives meaning to your existence in order to, because we can all tap out, right? Like at any moment. And I mean, I had more nihilistic and dark thoughts when I was growing up, not so much anymore. I think like you overcome things like depression as well, and then you come on the other side, and then life gets a little bit easier and brighter. But you still always have that sort of, like darkness aspect of it, or what is it when you're in deep suffering, right? And you keep questioning, what is the meaning of it? Like, why should I be here? Why am I here? And then coping with the existential threat, right? Mortality, aging, all this. And it's just a human condition, right? That we've had to deal with it for thousands of years. And we keep kind of recycling this idea and like questions and trying to come up with different answers. And I think there are tons of different answers. And for me, I feel that I am more in alignment and in tune with existence when I find meaning into what I'm doing. And it goes back to what we were saying about resistance and surrendering. A lot of times I feel disconnected when I keep trying to, like, let's say, open a door that I don't have the key, or that's not going to open. And I see all my surroundings falling apart. So there is this weird connection, and it's really hard to pin it, to kind of understand it, or to pinpoint, like pin it down, because it's just a little bit abstract. But I think that reality is reactive to your intention somehow, and it's really difficult to understand it. But there is this conversation between your inner reality and your outer reality that you can tell when things are not in the right place. Because it's not only inside of you that is falling apart, it's everything outside of you falls apart with you. Yeah. So I think these things can be good indications on, wait, maybe I should take a turn into a different direction. And again, it goes back to paying attention. What's going on inside me? What's going on outside me? Sometimes you're just being driving on autopilot for a while, and then suddenly you wake up. Like, well, how the hell did I get here? I don't know if you've ever experienced that in a relationship, or after, I don't know how long, you're just like, wait, you know, how did it end up like this? Why are we fighting over this? I don't understand.
Yeah.
And then you have to look back and like, oh, fuck, this has been happening for a while. Yeah. But that's a great question. Yeah.
Yeah, I like your answer, man. Like, it's made me think a lot about life, you know, just like, there's a book, where is it? It's over here somewhere. It's called Man's Search for Meaning. I don't know where it is, but anyway, It's over here somewhere. But yeah, Man's Search for Meaning. Have you heard of that book?
Yes, but I've never read it.
Yeah, so it's like, meaning of life is just what we make it mean for ourselves, right?
It is. It's this search of meaning. Which is, what's the word for it? Like something that you can't touch, that is constantly changing. It's so dynamic. It's not that whatever is meaningful for you today just transforms into something else, and you know, you're constantly, and that's, I think also it has to do with the fact that we're not static. We're constantly changing, right? And things around us are changing with us. Yeah.
Exactly. Everything's always impermanence, right?
Yeah.
Everything's always changing.
Right.
All right. So Walter, where can people find out more about you?
Where? I don't know, man. I have
private guy.
Yeah, no, I when I got injured, I was spending so much time on Instagram, and it was and I mean, I think it's great. I have nothing against social media or anything of the sort. It was just messing up with my head a bit.
Yep.
And I know when it starts, like I've been there before a few times. So I thought about it and decided to just cut it. It's like, I can't.
Yeah.
It spiraled down for me quickly, you know, one thing led to another, and then. But if you're ever in Bali, come and train with us. Yeah,
come to Jiu Jitsu at Rituals, or come to Sunday.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, or Donna as well in Ubud, right?
Oh yeah, true.
Tatio's restaurant.
Yeah, also.
Yeah. All right, guys. All right, thank you, Walter. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks,
that was awesome.
Bye.
All right, see you guys in the next one.